As I talked about in the Beelzebub video, one of the things he reminded me to do was go back and grab some of this is a very small amount of them. I actually have another box upstairs, old journals from the 90s, and start digging through them to find some, because there's some answers to things in here. And the one that has been most striking to me as I was going through some of these is that the spirits I work with have been with me for a very long time, even though I didn't know it was them. Because once I started reading through this, a few of these, I was like, oh, there's Abaddon. Oh, that's Lucifer. Oh, there's this. And anyways, so this I'm gonna record these probably in a couple different videos because, probably gonna take me a while to get through everything in some of these books. Not everything is pertinent, so I have to kind of weed through as I'm reading them, because sometimes I'll just, there's random. There's an old class schedule, I think, from something. Some lipstick I was testing out in 1994. I think there's some books I ordered when you had to go to the bookstore and be like, I would like to order the following books, and then it would take, let's see, the one book was going to come in 2 weeks, another one was 5 to 6 weeks, and the next two were 6 to 8 weeks. My, how have the times changed? Kids these days don't understand how hard we had it. Yes, anyways. So without further ado, this is a book, it's very small, as you can tell, from 1994-95. It says The Past and Future Connecting as One, Poems, Dreams and Visions Diary, 1994-95. And then it just randomly says Artemis. And I don't know what this is. It looks almost like I was testing pen, pencil, ink, eyeliner. I don't know, but that's the first page of it. So what I had done with this, and I apparently started it in September of 1994, which was around the time, I believe that, yeah, it would have been that when I'd always kind of been into the witchy shit, but like I took my first official like witchcraft class through I was in college at the time in Philadelphia. The store's no longer there. I think it was called Hand of Aries. But I had taken it was like Wicca 101 or something like that in the fall of 1994. So, and I guess as part of that, I'm now trying to remember why I started this. Keeping a Dream Journal was part of it. So the first entry, September 21st, Absilion, crescented robes. There's not much more to it. Doesn't mean anything to me, but a lot of these I'll note where they're dreams and whether they're things I channeled or visions. So the next day I wrote buildings, lots of old buildings, abandoned buildings, a small military airfield. I was walking down a road, then I was on a bus. I was wearing my Sisters of Mercy shirt. Man, that's that shirt. And black pants. Shocking. The dress very different. 30 years later. I was crying in bed, pulling pins out of the wall. My parents were there. My mom bought a book at the airfield. The planes looked so small, fragile, like they could only fit one person in it. My brother was there, except he was younger. So skipped a few days in writing. Now this part is about something. So some of this is I'm documenting things that came to me through visions, past life experiences. There's a lot of that in here. So this is just something I noted. I remember something totally unrelated to any recent dream about 7 or 8 years ago. So this would have been 7 or 8 mid to late 80s, I guess. Because if I wrote this in 94, so like maybe 87, 86, 87. I envisioned slash dreamt of being in Ireland, some kind of Celtic Samhain celebration. Two other people were there besides myself. There was a room in an attic with a white pentacle on the floor. I remember this while reading a book. It just popped into my head. So I would have been about 10 or 11 when that happened. So it's I'm so thankful that I have these things written down because and as I started working with the spirits and over the past 3 years, they've pointed back to a lot of this stuff. They're like, go back, trust us. So okay, so this one was it notes. Last night I was looking through an old journal from 1992. This is prior to my experiences in the pagan community or knowledge of the craft. I spoke of a vision, but first let me express that lately I have been finding myself drawn to Druidic and Celtic practices. I had a vision fragment of these underground tunnels, catacombs maybe, or perhaps caves in England. These rooms were used for religious services. At some point, I noted that this was during the Dark Ages. I think they were used by the Druids. I don't know much about them, but I think they hid and used secret rooms for their services. Also in the vision, there are these figures with black or brown hoods and capes. There are usually many candles around. Probably at the time, I thought nothing of this, but I started to be able to make sense of these things. And what's interesting about the hooded figures is a lot of times, I know Azazel appears to me a lot of times as like a hooded figure like that. Sort of almost kind of monastic in a way. Or when I work with, like, say, if I'm working with Belial, Lucifer, Abaddon, Azazel. If I'm working with a lot of them all at once, they will show up like that, like all kind of like in cloaks. So, I mean, some of these dreams are just kind of, random dreams that one would have, nothing mystical about it. So later or the beginning of October of 1994, not really dream related, but more alpha state related. A month or so ago, I was in a state of conscious, but yet not, and began to chant a song in a foreign tongue, unbeknownst to me. It's a common theme. Still do that. It's last week I looked and I found that several of the words I used were names of gods, goddesses. At the time, all I knew is this chant sounded very like from India or the Middle East, Asia. And then I had noted once I looked it up, it was Iraq, ancient Babylonia. So one of the names that I was chanting was Yama, Yama. And I used the correct spelling of it as I recorded it. And Yama is a Hindu sun king of the dead. Meshken, which I had spelled as Tashkent, is the Egyptian goddess of birth. And Shamash, which I'd used several times under different spellings, such as Samasha, Samasha, I have it kind of spelled out. This particular one, Shamash, is the Mesopotamian god of the sun. The rest of the chant I still have been able to decipher, but it seems to be from the area of Babylon, now Iraq. Now, you have to remember, in 1994, we didn't have Google and YouTube and all those fun things y'all have now. Like, I had to go to the library and look this shit up. So which was, thankfully I worked in my college library at the time. Well, it was art school college, but anyways. Yeah, so it's finding information back then was way harder. So yeah, luckily I was able to look some of that up, and doing these things was definitely not easy. So this is the one that was really interesting to me. It was October 6, 1994. Don't remember, but I think this person / being was there. Very powerful and very large. I mean, like 100 feet tall or something. The figure was black with robotic face and hands and all these mechanical designs on his robe. There were two people beneath this being. It kind of would represent the devil card from the tarot set. And this is the first time that I met Abaddon. Just based on that. And what's weird is that for a dream 30 years ago, as I'm reading this, I can still like I have that dream fragment memory. Like I know what I'm talking about in that just very minimal, description. The robotic face and hands and mechanical designs in the robe. Like I can visualize how I dreamt that and how I visualized that back then, which is kind of fascinating. So let's see, moving on into October, get another vision of being underground tunnels and brown woolen robes, carrying candles or some type of torch. A lot of these are just kind of random. Did I draw this in crayon? I literally kind of looks like it's in crayon, although I was in art school, so it's probably fancy crayon, like Conte crayons or something. And if you know, you know. Conte crayons were kind of awesome to draw with. So it says old house, brownish gray wood on a hill overlooking a small private cemetery. Narrow stream of trees and flowers around it. Sometimes when I look down, I see myself dancing along a seashore in a long white chiffon dress. Sometimes I'm barefoot, climbing up old broken stone steps. Sometimes I'm in a tunnel, stone like these steps. So we're now into mid-October, the 18th, I believe. During a brief visualization meditation on the element of water, I was drawn back to the same vision. And this one goes back to very early childhood. This was my first. So to give you the background to this is that when I was like maybe somewhere between 6 and 8 years old, I was at like a public pool with like a friend and her family, and I'd fallen in the deep end and I didn't know how to swim. So I was kind of like panicking and going under. And that's the point at which it sort of triggered a lot of when I started having like past life memories of things. And like and I've mentioned this before, that reincarnation was one of my first independent beliefs as a small child. That would not have had reincarnation explained to them. So the girl in the vision, the girl with blonde hair and the white dress, was kneeling at the edge of a lake that went kind of out on an angle. And the boy comes down from behind. She is holding a blue lily. The next scene is missing, and then the lily is floating on the water. This time, the missing scene was filled. When I began to visualize feeling the water, I saw the girl falling towards the water, trying to understand it. I always thought the boy, perhaps her brother, had drowned her, but I saw him reaching towards her to help her. The blue lily, or tulip, was floating away. When I tried to concentrate on the sound, all I could hear was the noise from the dark red house, which had been built up on stilts. There was some kind of gathering inside. The girl fell face down in the water, and the boy's hands were on her shoulder, trying to pull her back up. Before, he had always had his hand on her shoulder before she drowned, which made me think he had drowned her. And those visions kind of came up a lot. I would say the last of them came maybe when I was like 12 or 13. Oh, this is fun. I dreamt that I went back to my Catholic high school and had to give a speech to the student body about my life. So I told them that I was the Antichrist. I really hope to do that one day still. I really do. Hi, Bethlehem Catholic High School in Bethlehem, PA, class of 1993. Because and I'm really trying not to focus on the fact that this year is my 30th high school reunion, which makes me feel like, I don't know, Grandpa Simpson maybe. So now there was a gigantic gap in which I didn't write anything, though I know probably why. So we're looking at October 94, and then there's nothing until April of 95. And in that period of time was when my first really major depressive episode happened. And I was having a lot of personal problems and a lot of issues that were leading to me needing to drop out of college and move back home. And that was around the time. So somewhere in between here and here is when I moved back home. I finished out that year in college and then, just withdrew. So, yeah. So April 1995, the most powerful image visualization I had last August. I was in a circle of stones surrounded by forest grove, full moon. I was wearing flowing robes in the center of the circle. Behind me was a male figure in black. He wrapped his wings or arms around me, or he wrapped his arms around me, but his arms were really wings. Hi, Lucifer. He was trying to protect me from something. For a while after this image would come to mind whenever I was lonely or scared. In a sense, I could feel his wings wrapped around me, protecting me with them. And like anytime I felt any kind of, and I think that's for me why I feel like Lucifer's always been like my protector, comes from this. So, okay. So here's another story. This one's actually going back in time to November 93. My old roommate was having problems with her psycho ex-boyfriend who's trying to play. This was my first encounter with people, practicing black magic and stuff like that. So he was trying to play spells on her, etc. I went into a trance-like state and visualized. And during this, a cross with white dress nailed to it. There was like a crucifix. It had a white dress of hers nailed to it within a ring of fire. There were two sort of shadowy black figures or beings with no features. It took place in a forest, and there was this sense of being chased, falling, running, rolling down a hill. In reality, I felt actually as if I was rolling down the hill. I don't know what else I saw in the visualization, but it was bad and it scared me a lot. I was in a very deep trance-like state. I wanted to get out of it, but I couldn't. I kept trying to pull myself out of it. This was like the first time I experienced like sleep paralysis or that kind of thing. And eventually I finally did pull myself out of it. I could not speak at all. Luckily, my friend Mark was there and he helped pull me out of it. I remember him holding onto my face, trying to get me to speak. He kept saying, "Do you hear me?" I kept mouthing the words, yes, but they were inaudible. He kept asking me if I was okay. He kept telling me to say it. And I was really upset. Probably crying with irregular breathing patterns. My eyes kept fluttering and he kept telling me to look at him. Eventually, I came out of this state. I can't tell you how frightened I was or even what I saw, but it was pretty freaked out for a while. So, yeah. I was like 18 then. So, but yeah, I still remember that. That was a really freaky, yeah. What was that guy's name? TJ? I don't know. He was a crazy dude. Yeah, anyways. But it doesn't really. So another one. This is related to the visualization I had in August when I began to sing a song in another language. There was a small group of women, probably about 5, in black robes that covered most of their bodies and faces. They were in a circle and they were chanting this song. The scenery was dry and desert-like, not any forest. It was a flat land, hot sun, and sand. There was a house, but I can't describe it. But the 3 deities whose name mentioned were from the area of ancient Babylonia, now modern day Iraq. And here's where I'm complaining about my life having completely fallen apart. And relatable. It's always interesting. It's like I look at things I write, and I'm like, well, I could have written this any year of my life, but that was that year of my life. So, anywho. So we're still in April of 95. Lots of bizarre imagery. Two extremely emaciated figures, Jesus and Virgin Mary. We had to carry them back. They were so fragile and long flowing garb. Uh, they spoke, but I can't remember what they said. I was watching some movie, I think, but I can't remember. Well, that was very specific. There were one or two women in it, perhaps a man. Way all this. There was all this violence, mutilation, and death. Very specific. Do, do, do. I dreamt I turned my friend into a vampire. I don't know what that was. A photography assignment, apparently. So now we are into May of 1995, and I know I've mentioned this before that I had a history of having plane crash dreams. So I had another plane crash dream to the one similar I had over the summer. I was on the ground. I spotted an airplane. It was oddly shaped and appeared to be flying strangely. I kept saying to myself, "Oh my God, the plane is going to crash." And when it landed, parentheses, crashed, there was a huge fiery explosion. Everyone in the plane had died, and there were all these burnt bodies. One in particular was of a pregnant woman because I could see the cell, or you could see the skeleton of her fetus inside of her. The dreams I had last July and August were similar. In the first one, I was walking down the street with my father. In the field next to the street, it was winter-like. I saw a small commuter-like plane and kept saying the plane is going to crash, but no one believed me. And then the plane did crash. The second dream was the same, was somewhat the same. The scenery kept changing. There was a carnival or something. I was at my grandmother's house and I was upstairs and I kept saying the plane is going to crash. No one believed me. And then we saw a bright flash of light and the plane crashed into or near the carnival. And there were bodies everywhere on the roof, outside. A few nights ago, I dreamt blah, blah, blah. That's personal stuff. Um, hmm. Anyways, just kind of went into some random personal stuff from back then, which it's not worth getting into. And now I'm complaining about people. So, okay, so now we're into a visualization. There was a white room with white walls with two large oblong windows with long sheer flowing curtains and a woman with dark hair in a white pantsuit that was standing by the bed, motioning backwards, and there was then I was crouching on the floor as if someone had entered the room. Then there was another scene where I was in labor. The era kept changing from modern day to the 17th or 18th century. There was a woman, flapper girl. I could feel her dancing. She looked like me, a little shorter and heavier, with short black hair, slightly curled. I could hear music. And now I'm complaining about people again. Weird time in my life. So let's see. Another plane crash dream. I was down by this weird industrial complex. The sky was clouded, something. And I heard a plane above and said it was going to crash. In the stream, I was aware of the other plane crash dreams. That was something that was common in those dreams. Like I was aware that I had a history of having plane crash dreams in them. So I guess that might be. I think I've always been a bit of a lucid dreamer, even unintentionally. So, anyways, I started running back to the house, but I had to find a friend, and I noticed that there were all these slugs everywhere. Yuck. Somehow I ended up at my grandmother's house, and my family were there, and there were slugs everywhere. And then I went into the kitchen, and there was a mutant slug shrimp thing that was jumping up at my arms, and it was biting me and kept getting bigger. And it bit my arm and wouldn't let go. And I went outside to my grandmother's porch and smashed it against the wall. And my mom's cat was sitting there on the lawn chair. I forget the rest. That was kind of random. Blah blah blah. And noted. Skip this page. And that's just me complaining about things. All I know is that my handwriting changes very significantly all the time. Like, I mean, any book I pick up that I've written in, it looks like it was written by about 20 different people. And here's a page of words that start with the letter L. So now we're into later 1995. Okay. November 1995. I keep dreaming about diseases. Okay, this is, I think, part of what Beelzebub wanted me to get into. The last one I can only describe as the living death. The people would be decaying, but they were still alive. They weren't zombies. They had gross aberrations. The flesh would rot away, and you could see their bones. It was like some post-apocalyptic death thing. I'm being chased around by these disease-ridden creatures. It was very scary. No, this is into 1996 now, actually, January. I had a strange dream about Vietnam. I'm not sure who I was, but there was this swampy water-like area and we were being shot at. Then I was watching someone cleaning up body parts, and all I kept thinking, especially when I woke up, was, for 20 years I have tried to wash the blood from my hands. This person was very disturbed. Every time they looked at their hands, they saw blood. There was more to the dream. I can't describe it, and I think that's where this ends. Yep. And I'm starting to realize a lot of those things, like that one in particular, like I feel like these are like past life dreams. Because it's like I remember this moment, like that for 20 years I've tried to wash the blood from my hands, like, and just kind of like having that looking down thing. So, anyways, that was dreams and visions and shit from 1994 to a little bit of 1996. So I'm gonna keep going through these journals and making videos. Some of them will be cut up different. This one I was able to make a little bit shorter, so because it was not as much. But to kind of give you some previews of what's coming up. So I used to always decorate my. It's what's sad is these are now vintage magazine collages. They weren't vintage when I did them. But yeah, I used to decorate a lot. I used to decorate my journals in all sorts of different ways. This one is actually light there. So this is actually like a silver leather with part of a fishnet stocking over it. This one's fun. It's a photo of me being goth queen, whatever. So I used to always decorate things like that. I have tons more upstairs, but just giving you a couple previews of stuff. Yeah, so the next one, this one is also from 1994. It's called Dreaming in Symbols. Because why, you can title your work. Yeah, you can see how my writing goes. And I'm starting to realize what I thought was me writing poetry sometimes was me channeling things without realizing it. And this is some of that. I think that's what I'm referencing in this book, the Tia Samesha, some of the things I was channeling in other languages. This one was interesting because this goes again to that Abaddon thing. As something I scribbled, and it says, I fall into the shadow of a bottomless pit of, and then it just kind of goes off there. But yeah, we'll get into these more. As I said, I'm curious as to what these ones are. This one is The Dance of Death from 1999. This one's gonna take a while to go through. Wow, I actually wrote this in very easy to read. Wow, my handwriting stayed consistent in this one. That's unique for me. And this one is called Poetical Terrorism from, let's see, May 13th, 1999 to December 31st, 1999. It says rants, poetry, thoughts, dreams, randomness, cut up poems, manifestos, irony, general silliness, my thoughts on the world today, satire, society, religion, politics, current events, my life, soliloquies, experiences, visions, my thoughts on the past, tense, history, wars, personal issues, future, question mark. This is done in some effort to make peace with the demons from within or just to waste more paper. Well then. Ooh, the binding on this one it's kind of falling apart. Yeah, these ones are gonna take me. Oh, hey, it's my. Actually, though, I got my moon sign wrong. This is the one where I had hand drawn out my astrological chart. Except I got my I don't think I have my rising sign in this. Oh wait. Oh yeah, because I thought my rising and moon sign were Aries, and they're actually both Pisces. This is when I had to have a when back in my time, you used to have to you have the I still actually have the copy of it. It's like the only astrological book you'll ever need where you had to like sit there and look at all these charts and try to figure out like where was my moon in, based on your longitude and latitude and time of birth and whatnot. So I had gotten those two wrong. But now you can just plug your numbers into an app and it'll give you all that shit. So I'm gonna have to look through these ones a little more carefully because they're longer. And some of this was distilled down into crappy notebook that's really falling apart. Some of this is distilled into those books because this was a lot of direct channeling I was doing for a friend of mine at the time, regarding deceased family members, because apparently that's the thing I can do is contact the dead. And I have a whole page of sigils I drew. So, anywho, that's what's coming up next in this series. I think I've been meaning to do this one for a while, but Beelzebub kind of lit the fire under my ass, as it were. So I hope you enjoy this. Don't forget to click like and subscribe and smash the notification bell to get notified because I am dropping videos. I have them scheduled out like from the time I record them, edit them, and get out. Like I at least have videos a week up, like queued a week in advance at this point. So I'm dropping something almost every day. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Love y'all.